CPF helps civil society organizations address biodiversity loss and climate change in the global biodiversity hotspots. Therefore, many CPF grants are implemented in environmentally sensitive areas or among vulnerable communities. Recognizing the potential for adverse impacts, CPF has an overriding commitment to do no harm to people or the environment. To this end, CPF has adopted an environmental and social management framework, which sets out the process and policies for managing environmental and social risks in the context of CPF grants. The framework applies to all project activities, whether they are funded by the CPF grant or co-funding. For projects that involve the award of subgrants, the grantee is responsible for ensuring that subgrantees comply with the requirements of the framework. The process to identify and manage environmental and social risks in the context of CPF grants has 10 steps. In Step 1, the applicant submits a project concept in the form of a letter of inquiry or LOI. The LOI form includes questions about the project activities with potential environmental and social impacts, which the applicant should answer. In Step 2, the LOI is screened against a negative list of activities ineligible for CPF funding, such as physical resettlement of people or purchase of firearms. If the proposed project includes any of these activities, it must be redesigned to remove them or the project will be rejected. In Step 3, a risk assessment is carried out to assess the overall risk of the proposed project and determine which of the 10 CPF safeguard policies apply. In Step 4, the applicant receives guidance based on the risk assessment results. This guidance outlines the measures the applicant needs to take to comply with safeguard policies. It also indicates whether the applicant needs to prepare standalone environmental and social plans to provide more detailed information. In Step 5, the applicant will design measures to mitigate the identified risks. These measures will be included in the design of the project and, if required, described in further detail in the environmental and social plans. These measures should follow the mitigation hierarchy. First, try to avoid harm. If that's not possible, minimize it. Then, mitigate any lingering harm to the extent possible. In Step 6, the applicant will establish a grievance mechanism, whereby any person affected by the project may make a complaint, which will then be considered and satisfactorily resolved. In Step 7, the applicant will conduct meaningful consultations with project-affected persons and other stakeholders. The purpose is to allow them to express their views on the potential impacts of the project. In Step 8, if the applicant requires additional capacity to manage environmental and social risks, capacity strengthening activities may be included in the project design. In Step 9, after the grant begins, the grantee will be responsible for implementing any measures agreed to mitigate environmental and social risks. Finally, in Step 10, the grantee will be required to monitor implementation of the agreed mitigation measures.